we're gonna start basic. We're gonna do button against big blind, 20 big blind, heads up, single raise pot. So this thing just set me on big blind, but I want to play button to show you guys how this works. We are gonna So the plan for now is to play some 20 big blinds, single raise pot, just a couple hands, then switch over to the limp 20 big blinds, and we're gonna play all of them as very good. Yeah, so we're gonna set the position as button or in position, and we'll discuss some things again frequently, like looking at our ranges and stuff, and keeping in mind that this is roughly 25% total range, and it's very prevalent in the top range, as a lot of ace-X. So, yeah, the big blind range does. Okay, so typically for me this would be a pure big bet. I don't randomize this. This is an easy start. Very good. All in also featuring is quite interesting here, and it does make a lot of sense. This combo specifically. One common theme we're going to see throughout this at 20 big blinds SPR is the stack to pot ratio is quite low, and because the stack to pot ratio is quite low, we're going to see a lot of jamming already on the flop. Okay? So again, keep that in mind that we only have an SPR of roughly 4 to 5, 4, something 4 to 4. There will be a lot of jamming right away, and this is not something that feels natural to most tournament players, but there's spots in tournaments where that exists as well. So here, personally, I would almost always check. I think check is the play. For its pot power, that's right. You were thinking all in? Yeah. Like, so we can imagine if this was like 3x pot, then the all in is even more prevalent, right? So we can take all of these ideas here and just apply. Right, we'll just play a little bit here. So like again, get dealt the again, it's important to visualize our range here. And to me, I would mostly check. In fact, I'm just gonna always check. Yeah, 4-3 deuce, yeah. I would check or bet, and I'm just gonna bet now. Okay, that's a check. Okay. Right. So like a hand like this is, I think most tournament players will always tend to make a mistake to c-bet too often in all of these spots. And if you learn one thing from today, if you don't learn other things, the one thing you can learn from today is that we do not want to over c-bet heads up. Scrim, I believe king 4 is just the strongest 4. You just maximize against any other 4. I suppose. Like, don't get caught up in specifics. That's the worst thing you can do. Don't over focus on a single hand, right? Just remember that like one kind of 4 there is pretty good to put it in. Like sometimes, like you could have like a. But I would not want ace 4, and I would not want to block the ace highs, as you said, yeah. So again, here it's important to realize that this kind of hand is worth one street. And let me just ask the chat a quick question. Strategy related. If you consider our pre-flop range here, 20 big blinds on king 4-4, how often do we continuation bet with our whole range? And I can assure you that tournament players very much over c-bet these kind of situations. So it's going to be a very common theme throughout this session. So over continuation bets. We'll see. People be off many times over. So just give it a guess, guys. Think about your whole range on this spot and think how often you would bet it. And I'll have a look. 1 second for you. 25 to 30%. As I like that answer, but I don't think it's like an accurate answer. I don't think it's an accurate representation of what people do, right? I think it's going to be in the 30s. I think that's a really good answer, to be fair, so I'll just get it. Okay. I'm bad. 80 is also not good. Right, okay, so as I said, heads up players, I suck at short stack poker actually. I suck at short stack heads up. I whap, exactly. I did make the mistake of assuming that the 4x is not as prevalent in our range as it really is, but turns out it actually is. So yeah, 60%. And the queens are a pure check, though, and yeah, okay. Right. MTT guys, we do oversee, but we'll look at a couple more. I suppose the king 4-4 wasn't the best example. I'm gonna go small here. That roll, I think that is okay. I'm gonna ING overbet and check. I think that is okay as well. Overbet being like the largest size you allow in your sim, that's usually quite good. And you can see here that on like a queen 10-8 board, this is a perfectly reasonable way to cent, and we can look at how often we should bet this board, and we can see roughly. Pot here is kind of overbet. Yeah, it is, because it's a large bet size given the SPR and stuff. So yeah, again, we do get to go quite aggressive here with only 30% checks on a queen high board. And again, what you can see is when we switch this over to 30 big blinds and when we switch this over to limp, is how all of these things will change our strategy. So if you want to get good at heads up, what you need to do is you need to be good at limping your 30 big blind stack, you need to be good at limping your 20 big blind stack, and eventually you also need to be good at limping your 12 big blind stack. All of these are different strategies. And then also you need to play the raised pots well. And yeah, that's why tournament players are not very good heads up, because they tend to oversee that and they tend to be quite lost all over the place. Ace-high boards, one of the easiest ones in like the stack sizes you just bet. These are gonna be among your highest frequency C bets. I hope. I didn't prep this. Oh, that's right. Very good. See, typically one easy shortcut I can give you guys at 20 big blinds. If there's a single raised pot and there's an ace on the board, you can totally range bet this. Tournament players will just be like, I knew this. Well, yeah, but you range bet every board. So. Right. So yeah, that was an easy one. Range small. Nah, it doesn't have to be small. A board like Jack 10-5 is actually quite interesting, because I used to play a lot of heads up cash. About that, just got a call. I play lots of heads up cash, and though in heads up cash, typically you bet these kind of boards quite often. In fact, you bet them very often. Oh well, not too important. You bet these boards quite often. Right? So now that our range construction looks a bit different and the big blind is he's like, he does have quite a lot of those kind of hands. I would propose we RNG. We still bet quite often, but we RNG. Interesting contrast to normal SAP where we auto. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's quite different. It's because of our ranges being wider. So I'm just gonna RNG. I'm not gonna check this combo. I don't think this combo wants to check. I think we can like go big here quite often. Well, I'm just gonna put this in. I think this is fine. The 4 can't show down, so it removes 2 pair snap calls from their range, so it's just an easy all in. Yeah. Right, so again, it's a very frequently bet board, right? The 2 broadways are very good for us in position, even at the stack depth. 75% betting, right. And then as the rest of the hand goes on, you can feel free to blast this off. King Jack 8, I would want to randomize this. I got a bet this time, or a bet. I like to go small. One thing I do not want to over-focus on here is the use of big bets and sizings, because I would think that would be detrimental to what we want to do. We want a quick fire, we want to get a quick overview of 4 different things. See, you do it quite friendly. We're going to do like, again, super high frequency bet in my opinion, because as we just learned, the 2 Broadway boards, we just attack them quite strongly. We're just going to give this up. Oh no, okay, nice. Okay, that's pretty interesting, right? So we go with the full-on blast off. Yeah, I thought this is first of all, this is a really interesting play. It's a really good play, and it does make a lot of sense to use this hand, apparently. But I was thinking I would be interested in using some of these air balls. 3 Dangler is good for bluffing, and Powder Junkie shows up in the chat. What's up? Apparently it is, right? The 3 of spades just removes any sort of defense, right? It just removes spade calls again. Right, so it's a prime example of like a polarized strategy with spade, yeah. It's also interesting that we have the 5-3-0 to begin with, right? We don't really open that very often at all. We open at like 20%. Yeah. So again, ace-high boards. The only question for me is big or small. I think we go bigger here, so I'll just do it. Nope, small. Okay. Randomize, check. Deuce is really bad card. And just check down is good. Again, you know, it's like you just bet on the ace-side boards, you bet on the 2 Broadway boards. This is pretty similar to a 2 Broadway board. So we have to bet super aggressively on all of these. And okay. Let's try something. Right. So again, you know, very often in these situations, why is Dom's mouse a light switch? That's a good question. I'm just on the touchpad right now on a travel laptop. I could switch to a mouse if this is not good. Basically, the point is that we do want to be very polarized oftentimes here on the turn, and that's a theme that you can do in all of your heads-up situations. You have to stack that. You pick some really bad hands, and you pick some really good hands for your turn bets like this. And here this is one of the ones we're gonna be checking. And we're gonna be checking as well. And we check. I'm pretty sure we just a paired board we should be fine if I had to just bet. What do you think is turn is turnover freezing a double flush in previous hand? I can have a look at this. Later. Again, here 2 Broadways, it's just a very frequent bet. Turn, over betting seems good with this end. So again, you know, like, more importantly than playing every hand perfectly is to get some concepts right. And I assume it's going to be a check sometime. No, ever. In. Right, okay, so what have we learned so far in this very short session is to just be very aggressive on Scrim wanted to know the turn or turnover frequency on ace double flush. We learned ace good. Yeah, ace good for button. Ace good for button is actually something that you will find in a lot of these 30 or lower. 80% of tails are to lead towards the World Cup, guys. Promise you I won't keep you for too long. We'll do like half an hour more. And yeah. So again, you know, like this is the strategy. No folding, violence. Right? We'll go into something else now. We're gonna go into limp. And limp spots, they're gonna play a little bit different. So, big blinds. Limp. And quick introduction. Typically, tournament players love to limp step. They just love it. Oh, they just, they're all about it. And, well, whether that is correct or not, we will see. Right? We're going to be doing quick fire here. We're going to like quickly we're going to study some frequencies. And it's going to be fun. So again 50 here, you know, that board is like 50% step. So, okay. And on this board, I'll mostly bet, sometimes check. The 9-3. I suppose we do something like normal bet here. It's best 50-50 always. And obviously this is a check, right? So again, much more interesting than how we play this hand is how we play our entire range, because we need to know what we're doing. Okay, so we only, again, bet like half of our range here, and roughly half of our range, you will see that quite often in these limit spots, right? So like, people will, I want the hand to end. It's been a button. Actually, it's 15. Dong shove. What the heck? There's a lot of weird stuff happening in these limb spots. Button for the next set. First of all, we're going to look at main position, stabbing frequency, which is really high on king. Is high and check 50% of the time. Yeah, seems fair as well. Again, even on king 9, we're basically only betting half of our range. So like, tournament players absolutely love c-betting. So, as I said before, it's really important that when you do employ a limping strategy at most stack depth is that you also know how to play the flop afterwards, right? As a, well, how do you exploit that? It's, how do you exploit that? Well, a lot of this is just call it passive exploitation. Ace-high board, even in limp pots, is really good, right? So we just go big. A lot of it is passive exploitation. Basically, you run a HUD and you see when like your opponent completely oversteps limps, you just raise them or you float them. Yeah, floating them is actually really clever play because people tend to be quite face up on the turn. So basically, what you do is, I really love this step. Good shit. That step is very uncommon. We are gonna retry it. You do raise often, you do also float. Floating is good. 10-8-5. Surely there's a lot of checking there as well. Step that. Okay. It is important though that you don't blindly c-bet. It's not even a c-bet, I would call it a step, right? You need to take the game to a later street and then attack on those later streets as well. Because if you don't, you're no longer playing anything that resembles quote-unquote GTO. Or whatever. So you really need to, focus and use the randomizer, especially in these limped pots, right? You could see that in the single race pots, there were a lot more situations where we were just getting away with certain things than in the limped pots. The limped pots, the ranges are much closer together. Therefore, we need to be more aware and pay more attention. So here, for example, I think I would mostly pot this. I think this is a reasonable bluff. Very good. But again, you see how I randomize, and if I have to drive something home here, is most players bet too often. They don't check enough, and they sometimes they're just like, I have 10 high, now I must bluff. Well, again, the problem is heads up that ranges in limp pots are very close together, so you really need to keep yourself in line and use that RNG. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble. An exception to this rule, however, is the good old ace-high board, where I assume it's between bet or check. Because ace-high boards, you can now say, oh well, the big blind does not really have any, because he's just going to shove all of these pre-flop, right? So basically, if you have a hand like this, you can just say, I have the nuts, and proceed accordingly. And there too, where I thought I don't overflow some that I kind of self-folded. No, look, if they see bet like 80% or something, right? Look, c-betting, heads up, in limped pots, there is very few spots where you can just go completely wild. The ace-high is one of them, and if they do it too often on other ones, I can assure you can just go after them. For example, right here, I would personally randomize this, and it's a check. Well, if you compare this to the raised pot we just looked at, this is a very common bet, right? So, you can here, you see, quickly identify the difference, and that's pretty cool. And if you want to do well at heads up, then you need to study this. You need to study this, you need to practice, and again, here it's going to be 50%. So. And how we construct this range, well, that's part of where this is. It's only an introduction. I like that we get led into here. Very good. See what happens. Led into again. I'm not. Very good. Right. One thing I want to point out though is that all these DTO solutions have lead allowed, and you could say why is that? And that's a perfectly good question. The reason we allow it is because we wanted to see what would happen. But if your opponent doesn't lead, ever, you already know that your betting frequency is going to drop compared to what is quote-unquote optimal. So we see roughly 50% bet here. I'm going to raise here. It's pretty easy. So we can see here that our stabbing frequency is probably around 50%. It's probably going to drop a little bit if we allow no leading. It'll probably go to 55% check. So again, another reason to check more in these situations. If I disallow leading on future streets, it will also mess up the sim. That is correct. Yes, that is correct. There's many of such instances. This is bang on one of those that I would randomize 50-50 in the real world, so I'll show you 50-50 this as well. And here I'm just gonna bet half pot in the end. And again 50-50, 50% check frequency. Look what I found. Pretty good. Yeah, so a jack 7-3 board, there's even more checking, so it's really, there's so much checking here in these limp pots that I think this is a good betting hand. It's also a good betting board. So I think this would be like 70% bet or something. No, it's not. So again, proving my own theory that I like to overbet. Everyone overbets the flops. Right. Well, we'll do like 10 more minutes of this. And yeah, so like 10, 7, 7. I think this is mostly a check, but we get a really high roll, so we're gonna bet. Same thing with the turn. I still think mostly check, but we get a really high roll. I just think this is a clear check on the river. And one thing you can do heads up with these kind of hands is you can bet them twice to check on the river, and then you end up beating like. We check back much more in limp. Very much. We check back much more. And this is a concept that if we were like now to switch over to 30 big blinds, and if I had more time, we could look at this as well. But this is just supposed to be roughly an hour. Quick introduction, range c-bet here. On the range c-bet board. Give us a turn for something polar. Nope. No. You don't want to commit on that kind of hand. And then you just want to give up here. Right. So yeah, well, we've learned that there's going to be a lot of checking unless the board is ace high. And that's pretty interesting. That's a good introduction. We've learned that if we're looking for a spot to make money, it's to look at our opponent who over c-bet. Typically over c-bet. Typically over c-bet limp pots, and yeah. So because that was so much fun, we are gonna ready big ones, heads up, and we're gonna what do I think pure small did before. I'd have to check that actually. Give me a second. Send that post that hand in the Discord later because I just switched the spot. But definitely talk about something like that. Right, we're just quickly gonna do 30 big blinds. Again, reminder. We know them less often. So it's a really good card for our range. And we go maximum polarize on the turn and we take the pot. RNG was not approved, but it's went for it anyway. So, again, keep in mind that you cannot bet these as often. Keep in mind that this is also not something you should bet very often. Keep in mind that this is a pure c-bet ish. Really good hand. I don't know what the right answer is. I personally think this is like a check, really. Huh. Oh yeah. See now I did it to myself. I forgot that they actually do have quite a few deuce X combos because it's a limp pot. Well, that makes so much sense. Again, limp pots we just stab. Limp pots, ace ace. The ace ace boards we just get to stab. So because we're that far ahead. Right. So that's a concept that carries through. So like pretty much all the stack sizes. Again, ace high board. We just get to stab. Led into, which is also something you would see much more often in limp pots. And like the real card completes, just having the. Oh, and then here you just play for stacks. Wow, here again. Alright, so This is also much more common for the big blind to lead in these situations, because they have all the low cards. Now they have no reason to check raise them really. They mostly check call. So the wheel completes. Yeah, I'm not really following the RNG as much. I should actually. Okay, good idea. This is always a check. It's pretty clear. I'm still checking. I don't know. That's kind of funny. Check. Check. Again, stemming the turn, there is an option. The reason is this is very difficult, so we just need to we need a solid strategy. You know, we need to randomize our decisions on the flop. We need to be very solid, and we got a high roll. We go for it, and here again we have to randomize between all options. It's heads up poker. Don't press. Shut up. No. Look, it's just very important to keep your frequencies in check heads up. Right. So, if you don't, and if you just bet way too often, you'll become easily exploitable, and you do not want this. So you wanna try to play a solid strategy heads up that involves a lot of randomizing. I would check this like 9 times out of 10, but apparently it's 100% check. So stupid randomizer. Facing an overbet here, I suppose it's just a pure fold. That's the pure fold. Rolling here, I have the right roll, that's correct, yeah. I like doing that actually. Well, hey, you say this to me, I just followed the RNG, I didn't want to bet. I knew it was a check. So this is one of the ones that are closest to 100% bet for me. Because we have a good hand here. And we have 50 hands today. All right. Good stuff. Again, like bet sizing heads up. This is very tricky as well. Not something I want to go into this session. I would bet this very infrequently. We need to randomize our decisions heads up. It's very important. Like, especially on like this monotone board example here. We can't always do the same thing, We will usually find that we want to roughly bet 50% of our hands. And here we're going to do a high roll, bet. Randomize again. This is a prime example of a spot where we do want to follow through. But again, here, even a hand as sweet as 7-6, we do not always want to overbet the turn. We would check this like almost a quarter of the time, and that's really significant. So instead of going on to the next hand, what we should do when we see these situations is we should learn how to play these hands in every line that we should be taking. Because if we don't, then how can we be sure that we actually understand rounding error in our favor? I don't really think many hands do pure c-bet. I think I would not recommend pure c-bets heads up very often at all in a limp pot. You pretty much cannot do that. You're asking for trouble if you make pure plays. Just use the randomizer and be okay with playing your hand in every line. This is an exception, of course. The ace-high board exception. Right? Ace-high board exception with range bet. I was going to say, you can randomize the turn here because you could say, like, do I want to overbet this sometimes? Do I want to check it? Usually you just want to That's a good point, Scrum. That's really smart. I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, this is funny you say it because this is, to me, this would be a reasoning to like release solutions that have big bet and check as their only options. And I know we're gonna do that at some point in the not so distant future, but it's not ready yet. And like people will just be like, but it's not GTO. Well, no, actually, it's really good because as Scrim just pointed out, you can play a strategy that's big bet and check, and that's perfectly fine. I think in many cases it's actually really good. Here we rolled the flop. The turn, I suppose we're gonna. I'm not sure. I'm scared. GTO bot too good. 200%. Yeah, I think actually in general betting big and checking is really good strategy. Again, we're gonna bet. It does apply basically, but it's really good. Yeah. Very good. We just have to make sure we use it correctly. DTO bot with the range lead, I suppose. Also another spot where tournament players will just bet too often. Not the point of the lecture today. Range bet that ace board. Give me a non-ace board next. And then we do the 30 big blind SRP. Again, range. I'm just gonna give up now. Never gonna give you up. The board ran out too good for me to not do anything. And again, you just randomize the flop. So important. In these limp pots. Only way to play. We should have wrapped this up here. I have 5 more minutes. Said I'd end the session at 1:15. So we're gonna switch over now to a different spot. We're gonna play 30 big blinds SRP to end this up for 5 minutes. And we'll see if we learned something today that we can apply to that spot. Right, and again, if you missed some of the session, it's going to be on YouTube. We're going to RNG big bet. RNG some big bets here. And we're going to see again, we're going to get to be much more aggressive now. And that's also something I imagine people will struggle with quite a bit. The switch back between now it's a limp pot, now it's a raised pot, now it's a limp pot. It's quite dynamic. So people will miss bets or overbet at certain times. It's pretty straightforward. Monotone boards generally do get checked. Monotone boards get checked very often in raised pots, guys. This is 33%. Okay. Still a range bet. I wonder. Probably up there, like 80-90% for sure. Cash is a man's game. Definitely. Alright. So again, love it. That's straight up 100% bet. So again, I'm assuming pot or check. Well, now I just check it. I try to play a very polarized strategy on this kind of turn. Now I'll pop the river. And like we can now look at like thresholds on the turn, and you can see roughly again, the the two Broadway board. There's going to be much more betting now. Look, if I'm right. I usually am right about these things. There's going to be quite a lot of betting here. Yeah, like 70% bet. So again, play just the last couple more hands here. Yeah, I see the Queen 10 potting turn and this one. I can totally look at this when play a couple more hands, then this. We're gonna look at this last sum. We continue this for sure. Foot. Okay, a couple more hands is the button. Pay for our DTO stream apps, so not today. See, even this is a check sometimes, guys. Just all that turn. Hot. Ah. Okay. That's gonna be too deep for this chat right now. This is not introduction to heads-up material, but you know, in general, I just want to talk about mainly about flop strategy and pre-flop strategy. We go for the max, yeah. Right. Again, keep in mind that some of these checking frequencies might scare you if you're just a tournament player. No, just the first option. Just the first option. See. So what have we learned? We learned like which boards are better for us in limp pots and which boards are better for us in raised pots, and learned how to construct our ranges so that we actually, when we get to the spot in the real world, actually we follow something that resembles a DTO approved strategy, and that's really cool. And somehow this is a river check, which is kind of mind-blowing, but I guess they have quite a few 8-5s and 10-8s. So yeah, we've learned the difference between a limp pot and a raised pot heads up, how to construct our range pre-flop, and again, if you're watching this on YouTube, all the ranges are available for free on preflop.dto.poker. If you want to learn how to play post-flop, we have all of these spots in DTO post-flop, tournament trainer. If you want to know how to play cash game heads up, we have that available in our cash app. Yeah. If you want to learn more about DTO, join our Discord, follow us on Twitter or Instagram, all that stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I had fun. I learned quite a bit of heads-up strategy. Very confusing concepts in there for sure. And hey John, thanks. Yeah. Again, if you want to see more like this, I believe next week we have James, who will do something in multi-ways, which I'm excited for. And if you want to see something like cash games, our friend Lewis, aka Blackout, is going to do a cash game session, and I'll try to do another session probably next month. So if you want to learn anything, any sort of spots that I could cover, I will be happy to do so. So yeah, just again, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, and yeah, let me know what you think of the session, and let me know what you'd like to see next time. Bye bye.